So the race for the Barbados Cricket Association presidency is getting more competitive, with Hendy Wallace confirming his intention to contest the top post. Wallace, a former national selector and current BCA board director, becomes the fourth confirmed candidate, joining current Vice President Calvin Hope, Jeff Brooms, a retired educator and former VP, and ex-Barbados captain and West Indies opening batsman Philo Wallace, as they look to succeed Conde Riley, who will not seek re-election. Nomination period runs from the 15th of July to the 22nd, with election day now set for the 12th of August. That's 14 days after the July 29 annual general meeting. Hendy Wallace now joins us via Zoom to discuss his candidacy. Hendy, welcome to the SportsMax Zone. We haven't spoken to you in a while. Great to have you on the show, sir.
Hi there, Lance. It's been a while. Yes, I haven't heard you guys. Well, I hear you guys, but you probably haven't heard me for a while. So it's lovely to see you and hear you.
Yeah. No, we spoke to Philo Wallace a couple of weeks ago, who is one of the candidates for the top post. At that point, we knew of just 3 candidates. At what point did you decide to enter this race?
Well, Lance, it really came down to some discussions with some senior members in the Barbados Cricket Association, some clubs, some schools, and we had this discussion sometime before about the possibility of making myself available for the presidency. And to be brutally honest, when Conde was still very much in the chair, I didn't really feel as confident doing it because Conde has done such a remarkable job. And I think out of respect, and this is just a personal position, out of respect, I decided not to engage in the discussions previously. And when it was a little bit clearer that he was going to emit office, then I think the pressure mounted, about the possibility of being involved. And that's really where the discussion started. And I was prepared then to get involved.
Yeah. Well, Hendy, I must say that you have elevated your image as a cricket expert over the years in different capacities. Of course, we know that you were a former pretty outstanding player yourself, a selector, a coach, an administrator as well. And you've also done some excellent work in the commentary box, mostly on radio. So when we look at the gamut of your work as a cricket specialist, I don't think anyone would be surprised that you're putting yourself up here. What would you say would be the biggest thing that you would bring to this position?
I think probably my all-around experience, things that you have mentioned from being involved, not necessarily on the board, because I've only been on the board for about 4 years, but it was really being associated with the board in various capacities. And then sitting on the board, I saw a couple of things that worked well, but I felt, with a bit more attention to detail, we could look at other areas as well as to how to improve it. And then with the feedback as well coming back from the stakeholders and what have you, I think there are things to look at. Now, to be quite frank, the current board is blessed with having some very skillful persons at the moment. But I just felt that there was a disconnect with all the skills that were available, and we were somehow just missing something along the way. I'm hoping that if I am successful, that's one aspect that we can sort of address very quickly. We've got accountants, we've got legal, we've got lawyers, we have HR specialists, corporate specialists, you name it. And I think we're very fortunate to have persons with that cadre to make their services available to us. And, I think that we can do a lot with what we have at the moment. As I said, it's all about trying to get that unified effort to do the work of the Barbados Cricket Association.
Yeah, and Hendy, my information is that you are a very popular candidate among the hierarchy of the cricket elite in Barbados. Is my information correct?
Only time will tell. Lance, only time will tell. I like to consider myself very approachable. I've been very happy to engage, to share my thoughts on certain matters. So, of course, people will only tell you what you want to hear. So The persons who probably think I'm not so popular will not tell me that, but I think I have a reputation of being very approachable and prepared to engage.
Yeah, and if, of course, given that post, which is a very, very important post, what are some of the key areas you would want to tackle, like, immediately?
Well, I just mentioned about obviously the unison of the particular board. We obviously want to get some emphasis on our secretariat to be more efficient, and I think that the relationship between the board and the secretariat uh, needs some solidifying in terms of people being held accountable. By extension, that goes down then to the field of play. We have areas like the development of women's cricket. I think we're lagging behind as far as that is concerned because women's cricket is still relatively new in terms of the grassroots structure. Now, I was fortunate enough to be part of grassroots women's cricket in the 90s when I was still coaching in Ireland. And I must say, initially, I was a little bit overwhelmed because of all the specifics involved in coaching female is slightly different. It's almost similar to when you coach children with disabilities, where it's all about description and not necessarily any physical contact, especially with male coach or likely for any sort of coach for that matter. So there are things that we need to address. I think everybody or a lot of people really seem to be looking at the end result as opposed to the process of getting there. And I think that's where the board can assist with getting that process in place to get to that end result. And with having someone like Hayley Matthews still being very relevant, and in my mind, one of the, if not the greatest, one of the greatest ever female cricketers, I think it's an opportune moment to cash in on that sort of a character or a player still being very relevant to help promote and get more young girls involved in playing the sport, to appreciate the fun aspect of it, then the safety aspect of it, and then the skill aspect of it. Now, that doesn't happen overnight. So the necessary programs have to be in place. The public and the supporters need to be patient because all this takes time. Everybody likes a quick fix, but I think we have to be a little bit more realistic with our targets.
Yeah, good to hear about your focus and emphasis on, women's cricket. So that's a good start where I'm concerned. What about the infrastructure in Barbados? Are there plans, or will that be a part of your manifesto to work on that?
Yeah, I think we have to look at that because the game is changing all the time. The popularity of the game, dinosaurs like myself still get caught up with test match cricket. We still see it as the real cricket, but that's only an opinion. We have to go with the territory. And the white ball cricket is definitely the dominant format at the moment. We have to find a way to insensitize the young players as to how to strike that balance. It's hard to take away from the financial gains in the white ball game, but you still have to find a way to how you can marry the two so that you can still look to produce that elite cricketer for red ball cricket, as well as to create channels and avenues for persons to maximize their earning ability in the white ball format.
I think Philip Wallace spoke with us initially about getting legends involved in the game in terms of helping out youngsters who want to advance in the sport of cricket. Are you in line with plans like that? Because there's always been discussion on ideas to help players to transition to the next level. And there's been a gap, and it's not only in Barbados, it's across the region, to be fair. There's been a gap there that we haven't really been able to fill and solve that equation. So is that something that you're looking into as well?
Well, the thing is that there's no substitute for experience. And the legends who've been there and done it, the value of their contribution is so very much important. It's almost invaluable. And I know that the legends are certainly very keen to do so. I think they're just looking for the correct relationship or the acceptable relationship to be involved. And at the same time, not just for the players, but also the coaching staff have to embrace it as well. Because you want to ensure that people understand nobody's taking anything away from you, but it's a win-win situation when you can get the legends to be involved. So the short answer to your question is yes, the legends, in my view, need to play a pivotal role in the development of our cricket. You have the technical side, you have the playing experience side, and then you have the mentorship, which is critically important and something that we've seen to. I'm not sure that a lot of attention or enough attention is paid to it with our developing teams, sports psychologists and stuff. Again, I don't know if the importance of something like that is being considered. So the legends will obviously be part of that sort of mandate.
Mr. Wallace, I'm sure you have insight as to how the board operates, and I just want you to paint a picture of how difficult it is to actually implement ideas, whether it's because of a lack of financing or a lack of will. You'd have seen what goes on behind the scenes. How difficult is it to provide that pathway to success?
I don't say how difficult it is. I think it's a case where sometimes lines get crossed, and that's where accountability is probably passed onto the wayside. And I think that's where we have to get back to, where people are accountable for what they're responsible for doing, and then it may be a little bit easier to achieve the goals. And goals have to be realistic as well. I've had many conversations with persons who have some excellent ideas, but I still don't think they pay enough attention to the process in getting to those particular areas. So I don't think it's extremely difficult once we have the people in place. We don't have square pegs in round holes. And I believe that once people are held accountable for what they're supposed to do, there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Is there a legacy project that you'd want to get involved in to really sell your presidency, and if you do get it, to make your name from it as president of the BCA?
No, it's not about me. I just want to get the job done. I want to make sure that we get our cricket in a place where people are a little bit more excited about our cricket. And earlier I was talking about developing our female game as well. There is an aspect of the recreational cricket where it's just a hobby, and the structure of Barbados cricket. We have a lot of past players, past international players, past first-class players who still want to get involved. And I think that that's all part of your foundation when you look to get the elite cricketer, when you get cricketers coming through the ranks from school cricket, representative underage cricket. So that club cricket is also very important. So some attention must be or a little bit more attention should be given to the club structure as to how best we can make it more viable, more sustainable. Is very important as well, because that is still very much the stepping stone to get into that elite cricketer or the top Barbados cricketers. Now, we've done well at the underage level, and we really have to find things to occupy these players when they come out on the age, because we have to remember that the players the year before or the year before that or the year before that were also promising young cricketers, and you end up with a bottleneck. And the easy way out is to try and find an 18, but in 2 years' time you can still create that bottleneck. So we have to find things to keep these players involved, keep the interest going. Otherwise, we're going to lose them to these respective franchises around the world.
Yeah, and I mean, you've played the game before, so it's great to have this type of discussion with you about the transition, from like a junior cricketer into that senior professional setup and all of that. Is that something you've considered as well? Because there's a gap. There's definitely a gap.
Yeah, well, everybody can't be a professional cricketer. I mean, it's become more difficult in recent times with the change in work permit regulations in the United Kingdom. So that has made it a little bit difficult, because certainly in my time, we had hundreds of cricketers going up to play in the leagues or playing county cricket or whatever, which in my view was still a bit of a finishing school for our talented cricketers.
Yes.
And even regardless to what level you played, it helped you to be a little bit more disciplined, to plan better, the whole aspect of playing cricket every day. That's why it surprises me a bit when I hear about workload for players and fast bowlers. I mean, you wanted to get out there every day, and the active parts of the body got a lot of repetition. But science has probably changed the mindset as far as that is concerned. So we are guided by the science of the sport. But yes, it is again a very important factor of that transition from underage cricket. And for those players who may not get the opportunity to play elite cricket or franchise cricket, we still have to keep them interested and make them feel that there's still something to play for.
Yeah, Hendy, a few more questions before we wrap this interview. In Barbados, Barbadians tend to feel that when Barbados cricket is strong, West Indies cricket is strong. I've heard Barbadians say that many, many times. How do you feel about the impact of the territorial boards in fashioning and shaping their own cricket to benefit the West Indies team in these struggling years of West Indies international cricket?
Well, the thing is that I think we're all struggling. All the territorial boards are having some issues with their own cricket. And yes, a lot of the territories tend to look at Barbados as the beacon to guide them as to how to structure their cricket, how to structure their programs. And I guess on that basis, Barbados has always been seen as the leading light to make that make that possible. One of my concerns, Lance, at this juncture is the conditions in which we have in the Caribbean. I am not so sure that our pitches are helping the cause. And that's something that I think at some point in time we really have to think seriously about it. I know Ken Crofton has been the person responsible for getting it wrong and making recommendations to preparation of pitches. But something is still not right because we're not hitting the nail on the head. And I can't believe that groundsmen are deliberately preparing the sort of pitches that we're seeing. So it must be some other component that seems to be missing. And I think, it's reasonable to say we have to review that. But the involvement of the territorial boards at the various levels to collaborate, because they all have different challenges. But for one common goal, we certainly have to be on the same page to discuss these things as much as possible.
Yeah, you spoke favorably a few minutes ago, Hendy, about Conde Riley's governance. What exactly about his governance over 4 terms that you thought was so impressive?
I think the fact that he adopted an inclusive policy. He certainly wasn't a dictator, and he embraced ideas, I thought. And he always had his finger on the pulse. He was always the person that you could approach, and he always had his finger on the pulse and willing to engage. For that, he was well respected for the most part in his role at Cricket West Indies, and he was always keen to fight the battle for Barbados, and he was very passionate about it. So in my interaction with Conde, which started when I was chairman of selectors, when he first approached me about it, I've always felt that he was very conscientious and very upfront. And what I liked about Conde was that even if you didn't like what he said, when you at the end of the conversation, you knew where you stood with him. And for me, that is massive.
Yeah, and one more quickly before we go, because when he retained his presidency back in 2023, he defeated Calvin Hope by only 3 votes, I think 75 to 72. And if it is that he was such a good leader, in theory, it would appear from the outside looking in that Calvin Hope has a lot of respect for challenging him so strongly. Are we to think that Calvin Hope would probably be very hard to beat in this election?
I have no doubt he would be, because he's another person who has given a lot to Barbados and West Indies cricket. He's very knowledgeable. He has the institutional knowledge as far as the Barbados Cricket Association and by extension Cricket West Indies. So on that basis alone, he will obviously start. He'd probably start as favourite as far as that would go. But when you look at the votes in the last election, that they were as close as they were, maybe it was a sign that the membership felt that there was a time for change, to have different ideas, whatever. Conde was able to hold on to the position in the last election, and maybe he just felt he's had enough and decided to step down, which I think was the honourable thing to do, because I think then he can bow gracefully, and hopefully the recognition and acknowledgement he deserves will be afforded to him.
Yeah. Okay, Hendy, great talking to you here on the SportsMax Zone. We know that you have a history steeped in Barbados cricket and cricket overseas, because I know you'd spent some time in Australia and Ireland as well. We wish you the best, and may the best man win.
Thank you very much, Stan. I appreciate it.
Okay, great. That's Hendy Wallace, one of the candidates for the presidency of the Barbados Cricket Association. Those elections set for the 12th of August. We go to break. Still a lot more to come on the SportsMax Zone. Back in a moment.